I want to make a short video on one of my favorite saxophone players to ever walk the planet, the great and uncomparable Joe Henderson. I recently came across the audio of a clinic that Joe Henderson did at the University of North Texas in 1985. I put a link to the full masterclass in the description below. Definitely go and check that out. But I wanted to share with you a section of him talking about his teaching style and what he works on with his students.
Every now and then, in the town that I came from was kind of a small town, there were a few players that came through, and I got to see live saxophone players every now and then, live musicians. Otherwise, it was me and a record player. That did me so well that by the time I got to college, my instructors all thought that I had perfect pitch because I'd done so much transcribing that, these things that they would lay on me to do, like in the sight singing dictation class and stuff like that, was really nothing to it. I must have transcribed 10 million notes. And here we go, and they do this da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. They want you to write that down, I said, oh, wait a minute, are you kidding? I had done much more than that. I had it so well that they swore them down that I had perfect pitch.
I've always been a bit intrigued by how Joe Henderson grew up in Ohio, especially in Lima, Ohio, which is kind of in the middle of nowhere, and he was one of the greatest influences on the tenor saxophone to come after John Coltrane. From his very early recordings as a sideman with the great Lee Morgan, as well as his debut record, Page One, and all the amazing players that he collaborated with over the years, he definitely stands as one of the best to ever play the saxophone. He worked as a sideman with Chick Corea, Freddie Hubbard, Kenny Burrell, Wynton Marsalis, Kenny Garrett, just to name a few, and on all of those records, he always brought just spontaneous and genius improvisations. Getting to hear him talk about his teaching process and what he thinks is important for students to learn was super enlightening. A couple of great questions came up in this masterclass where he talked about some of the things that he works on with his students. Let's have a listen to question number one.
So if you were to learn jazz all over again like us, you would rather learn the way you learned it instead of the way we're learning it, the episode albums and the transcription?
Well, I don't want to cast any bad aspersions because I think we have to deal with the reality of the fact that those things are here, but don't let them keep you from getting to an even deeper involvement with the music. That can keep you from the music on a level. That book is out there. All these great things are out there. And all you have to do is go buy them and say, oh, well, I'm done. I bought the record here. I've listened to these things for 4 or 5 weeks and then go out and do some gigs. It didn't work like that for me, I just prefer the way that I came through it, As a matter of fact, I teach improvisation in San Francisco, and we don't deal with written music. And I've been around written music. I read very well. I've been reading for a long time, ever since the day one, But in improvisation, you're dealing with that. You see, there's no music stands up here. We've got all this stuff committed to memory, So I teach improvisation. I think I have developed a fairly good system, a fairly successful system of teaching improv, which is very difficult to teach. I'm sure you must appreciate that. And I have people learn things. They learn by rote. And that's not to say that the book thing doesn't have a place out here. Definitely in places like this, the book definitely has a place. But I think you get closer to it when you get with that record. It was me and a record player.
I think this question is super relevant, especially since then in 1985, those were new things. The Aebersold albums and transcription books were kind of a new development. But since then, we have probably tenfold the amount of information, if not more. And I think as a result of this, there is the possibility to learn a ton more using these tools, but also the possibility to skip over a lot of the details, like what Joe Henderson talked about when he had to go and figure things out for himself. I like what he said about using the tools, but do not rely on them. Hilariously, I don't think it works for anybody where you just learn a few Aebersolds or a few transcriptions and then you go out and play gigs and automatically sound great. You have to go in, pick apart transcriptions, find the lines you like, learn them in all 12 keys, come up with a system for incorporating them into your vocabulary, and then learn how to make them fluent and become a natural part of your language. As an oral tradition, this art form is best learned by rote. This leads pretty seamlessly into the next great question.
What specific things do you ask your students to do?
Well, to make the experience different from one person to the next, and also this will depend on what an individual comes to the lessons with. Different people have different things worked out. One person has been at it longer, so their experience level is a little higher. I'll assign them, and I create these things. This is the way that I write. I write every day. I'll assign them things to memorize from one week to the next. They got 6 days to to get this thing together. And I'll create this right then and there as I play piano, and I'll play for a soloist, and I'm assigning them lines. We just developed this thing like in the 12-bar blues. I'll give them 4 bars, and we'll work that out. They'll get that under their fingers. I'll run upstairs, have a drink of water, something like that. Well, they get that down. I'll come back down, give them another 4 bars. Then, et cetera, another 4 bars. They got 12 bars, okay? They work this out, and I try to discourage them from writing this down. I discourage them from bringing tape recorders, because that also is relying on another situation that might break down on you, you know? I mean, once you get this brain working for you, you'll be able to retain. What I teach is I teach them to practice retention and to retain things. And I've done it so well that after a couple of years of this, I've had people, we go out and listen to some music, and I'll have them write down 12 bars right as they hear it, you know, in a club where there's a band playing, you know. Not a real involved 12 bars, but a real fairly, not too difficult 12 bars. They write down this next 12 bars that you hear, you know, and they'll do it. You know, I'll have to use a tape recorder because I won't be able to remember what that is. I'll say, okay, well, solid. Now here it is right here. This is what you wrote down, and this is what was played. And I think that works better on the level that somebody can teach you something in a matter of minutes, and you can learn it, you know. They put it down on the music paper for you, and here comes a good gush of wind and blows the paper away, and then there goes your gig.
Learning music on the spot. What an interesting concept, and such a very relevant skill to have as an improviser and a musician. As improvisers, our ability to pick things up that you hear and learn them quickly could not be more important and could not be more helpful to keep you relevant as a working musician. I love the idea of this personalized approach that he's taking, where he's essentially writing out different etudes for each of his students. Depending on skill level or interest, you're definitely going to have different things that will appeal to different students and help them learn as best as possible. This makes it almost like a game or a fun challenge to get to the next level so that you can start to do and say more as an improviser. I wish I would have gotten the opportunity to study with Joe Henderson outside of transcribing solos and all of the work I've done listening to him as an improviser. I really love the idea of teaching 4 bars at a time though, and I'd like to do that right now just to honor one of my heroes, the great Joe Henderson. Checking out a concert B-flat blues, I'm going to give you the first 4 bars, and what I want you to do is pause it after I play the first 4 bars and see if you can transcribe on the spot what I play. Check it out. 1, 2, 3, Let's hear that a little bit slower. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel free to pause it right now. I'm going to go have a cup of water, and I'll be right back. Let's check out phrase number 2, starting on the 4 chord. 1, 2, 3, Checking out phrase number 3. 1, 2, 3, Slower. 1, 2, 3, I love the idea of this exercise, and especially doing it over the blues, because there's 3 very clear-cut and essential chord progressions that we all need to know as improvisers. Hope you got as much out of listening to this as I did from listening to the masterclass. Definitely go check that out if you get a chance, and if you like this, please subscribe to my channel. There's going to be plenty more things coming up in the weeks to come. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.